Hello all, welcome back. It is time for another season. Ignore the card on the screen. It is actually season 8, but we are in fact still in Division 2 and here in Bahrain. Here's a look at the circuit. 5.4 kilometers around. The season opener last time around. 15 corners, 3 DRS zones. This time though, we will be taking it in the daytime thanks to some graphical glitches at night driving. It is the 7th appearance on the FRS calendar for Bahrain, but the first time it'll be raced in the day. Your major overtaking opportunities turns 1 through 3, this opening complex. After the DRS zone that is the pit straight, that hard right-hand hairpin really opens up the overtaking opportunities. And then it leads directly into another DRS zone and a braking zone for turn 4. Another right-hander, which is your next best overtaking opportunity. There's the hairpin down the hill at turn 8, but it is less ideal. Tire compounds this time around in 2023 a little bit different pace-wise. Medium is only 0.4 of a second slower per lap. The hards 0.7, and the tire lives are considerably longer. The softs will go 18 laps, mediums 21, hards 25 at their maximum distances in this 29-lap race. They do last a bit longer, but there's kind of an early degradation curve to them, which is a whole new set of things to handle. So let's get ready to head out onto the racetrack here and get our first qualifying laps in the board. So here we are jumping on board, coming into the final corner as we start our first flying lap of the brand new season, opening up the DRS in the sunshine here, and down the pit straight we go. We're going to spot our braking point just about midway between the 150 and 100 boards. Go down to third gear, get the car rotated, and then start easing back on the throttle. Very tricky traction zone as you're moving left then right. But open up your second blast of DRS as we're headed now down to turn 4, just about past the 100-meter board. Pitch the car in, look for that inside apex. The track is a little bumpy on the outside of that corner, so getting as close to the apex as you can is ideal. Now through this little downhill S section, just trying to get the car hooked up and find your braking point for this downhill hairpin. Get the car rotated, straightened out as soon as you can to get full throttle down. Now back up the hill to the trickiest braking zone on the circuit, turns 9 and 10, as you're turning, braking, working downhill. Very easy now to lock the rears if you're not careful, and the fronts if you're too aggressive on the brakes. So out of that is your third DRS zone. Find about the 75 or to 60 meter mark, brake down for turn 11. And your full throttle up the hill, turn 12, and then braking on your way into turn 13. Tricky little braking zone. Get to the inside curve, run it out as much as you can. A little bit of a bobble that I had to catch. But we have this long straight here down into the final 2 corners. Find your braking zone. Try and stay off that curb, even though I was on it that time. It does upset the car just a little bit. But then you are on the throttle as early as possible. Open up the DRS for the last time, and we've gone to a 130.0 for our first qualifying run of the day. Now back out on the track. I've opted only to do 2 qualifying runs today because I'm thinking of saving a set of soft tires for the race. So we are going out for our second and final flying lap. There are a few other cars working their way now out of the pit lane, so on the brakes into turn 1, trying to see what this McLaren is going to do. We're a little wide of the apex, get the throttle down, and trying to see, is this McLaren going to jump out of the way, going to the racing line? It does not. So we lose a good 1/10 and a half to almost 2/10 in that first corner, and then make a hash of turn 4 and lose all kinds of time. So that is the end of that. So we're starting P8 on the grid now on the medium tires. All 5 red lights are up. We're looking for a decent getaway as the lights go out. Getting off the line, not too bad. Trying to be as timid as possible into turn 1 the first time as the Ferrari's pinched way to the inside by the Alpine. Trying to slow down, a little bit of a tap in the Ferrari, and that kind of created a little bit of a concertina effect there. So we are going to have to slot in behind Robin here. A little touch from Sienna Bob on the outside as we were just kind of nose to wheel, so we've lost the position there. Almost outbrake ourselves. You can actually see his tire lock up for a second as we head down into the braking zone of turn 4, but not an ideal start from P8 down to P11 now. But trying to just settle in as it looks like Onyx has run a bit wide. Early braking for Sienna Bob. We're just trying to pick some different lines to get a run. Onyx on our back. You have to be careful into turn 9 and 10, and as we are trying to leave some space to the car in front, tap on the back by Onyx, who pushes us again hits our front wing, damage to that left front wing. So down to 12th now with a damaged front wing, trying to see a little bit of a run, but not going to quite get it, and the car is definitely understeering pretty aggressively through the corner. Onyx coming back on. Maybe we have the run around the outside, and no, we're just going to have to back out, let him take the racing line. We didn't have the overlap needed. Oba Mendez, because we don't really have the ability to get the nose of the car turned in with that broken wing, he's going to try and go up the inside of us. We're setting our tires. One important thing, though, is that the wing change was still set to auto, and we're going to find out what that does in just a moment as we run a little bit wide, and now trying to get our way across to the right to the pit lane, and we have to kind of slow up to dice our way through, but on the brakes into the pit lane, and now going to see the new hard tires go as long as we can, and nobody has a front wing ready. So not an ideal situation. The hard tires go on. The front wing was not changed. You can see already I made the change in the MFD to yes, repair wing damage, as opposed to auto. Because at this point, 22 seconds off the back of the last place person, and even further from anybody else, realistically. Gonna need a safety car to get involved in this race again, regardless. So my thinking here was, let's go back onto a set of medium tires, essentially reset ourselves to the original strategy that I had picked. And yeah, you can see just how much the car is not behaving with the broken front wing, and of course the tires now a bit cold. So I'm going, let's go on to the medium tires, go back to the original strategy, which I was planning on going medium onto the softs at the end to have a little bit of pace. Just let the mediums hang on, go a little bit long. But now we're going to have to make a second pit stop, and we're going to need a lucky safety car at some point to bring us back into contention. So we're telling the team we're going to box this lap once again. The new mediums will go on, and we will come out and be about 2/3 of a lap down from the leaders, or from the next car almost. We'll be about 50 seconds roughly off of P15 Mittens for Kittens. Pathaman has had a spin and is struggling, so there's only 12.3 seconds the gap there. So we're going to make our pit stop, and then it's just going to be kind of a grind and turn in lap times, save ERS so we can use it if something does happen that allows us to catch up. But into the pit lane one more time on the brakes, making sure not to lock up because we got that busted up front wing. The last thing I would need at this stage of the race is a 5-second speeding in the pit lane penalty. So we avoided that. Now the front wing is going on, medium tires going back on, about 7.5 second pit stop. And away we go once again. There's some local yellows as there's been some mistakes. Looks like Madsta's had a moment in the hairpin of turn 8. And the rest of the field still very much goes together as we switch off the pit limiter and get back to it. And now we are going to be relatively heavy on fuel for the rest of this race as well because of that, as there's a little bit of a slide coming out on the cold tires. But you can see 41 seconds to Pathaman, 58 seconds to the next. But we're going to jump ahead, lap 7 of 29. This incident between Oba Mendez and Onyx has them making some pit stops. So we are going to get by those two guys as they come into the pit lane. So we are back now up to 15th place, so 5 spots away from the points, but still a good 30, probably about 25, 30 seconds outside of the points paying positions. We are going to burn some of our overtake, our battery, just because Onyx is going to have a couple of laps where those fresh medium tires are going to be very, very strong compared to the tires that we are on, since ours are about 5 laps old at this stage.
12.2 seconds.
And so I want to try and make a little bit of a gap while he's still warming up his tires, so when he does get those couple of quick laps where they're very good, he's not going to pull all the way into DRS range of me. We are starting to work our way back up towards Madsta as well. 11.9 seconds the gap to him now, so still just trying to work our way through, not going to quit on this race. Would have been a very easy situation to, after 2 pit stops in the first 3 laps, to just pull the car in, retire it, but you never know what can happen, and essentially at this point have to kind of bank on the safety car. No different from when I had to make the first pit stop, just a little bit of extra time. The mediums won't quite go all the way to the end of the race from when we put them on, so we do have to make one more pit stop, but we were kind of back on our original strategy. Now jumping ahead, lap 10 of 29, Chronicle into the pit lane on the hard compound tires. He can go to the end of the race. We have a big slide, taking a little too much curb in turn 2 there, which is always risky here around Bahrain, but you see Chronicle really struggling to get those tires heated up. Onyx stayed about 3 seconds back of us, but picked up a track limits penalty at the same time, so now that our tires have kind of equalized out, I'm not too worried about Onyx at the moment. And now we've got Chronicle just ahead, who is definitely fighting those hard tires as it stands. And we did catch him kind of in a spot where it's not ideal. You can see the amount of time we're going to start losing to Onyx behind us, and a big bit of wheel spin for Chronicle coming out of turn 10. We have the DRS on him. We're going to use some of that overtake. We're going to get by him. Unfortunately, though, the hard tires should be just about coming up to temperature at this stage, and with these medium tires being about 7 laps old, they are getting to their first kind of drop-off point. In the current F1 game, it's not as linear of a performance drop-off in tire wear as it was in the past. They've kind of created this fresh out-the-box level of performance, a decent drop-off after the first 10%, then a bigger drop-off after a 25% wear, which you can see we're at right about now as Chronicle comes by a little bit of a grind side-by-side as he's passed us and left him all the room in the world, but he's gone through. I'm just trying to see at this point, try and stick in his DRS. He's going to be quicker than me because he's got the fresher tires. But if we can stay within the DRS, maybe he can pull us along a little ways, and we have the opportunity to close up to the pack. But off the circuit is a Red Bull. Ipswich out of the session, and a full safety car is deployed. So what we needed was a safety car, and now we have the opportunity. It's way too early to go on to the soft tires as I would have expected. Would have had to go to about lap 17 or so. But we are in a perfect position to go on those hard tires that basically did the 1 lap. So they are basically totally new. And switch onto those, go to the and be able to go to the end of the race on those tires. Now, safety car again is going to lean into that kind of heavier fuel situation that we're dealing with, as Chronicle's kind of leaving quite a bit of margin to the Delta at this stage, although he makes up quite a bit as we come up the hill. The leader just about getting picked up, and slow down. I kind of wanted him to go a little quicker because I wanted to lose as little time, 2 cars behind, but essentially we stayed right where we were at. You can see I'm kind of hustling him down these back couple straights, lifting completely off. But ease it into the pit lane. Make sure not to pick up any 5-second speeding penalties. That is crucial at this stage. Chronicle is staying out since he did switch onto those hard tires just a lap ago. We have Onyx right on our gearbox, so he made up about 3 seconds in that catch the safety car phase, and that is going to put Oba Mendez past us. So we will come out of the pits in second to last place in P15 as Ipswich retired. And then we will be able to rejoin and hopefully get back to the restart in just a moment. I believe I should have the cut go right about now. Right about now. Don't worry, we'll cut. There we go. Safety car in this lap. We did move up to 13th as a couple of drivers made a late pit stop after the first time by, so we did make a couple of positions. But green flags are out. The leader has restarted. Not a great restart from us, but just trying to be careful down into turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, as it can get a little tricky, and Onyx got into the back of us at the start of the race, and just looking a big snap of rear locking, and that's going to put us tight to the inside on this very unstable curbing. And, well, just before the safety car, you saw me touch that curbing, unsettle the car, managed to make the save. However, this time, not able to make the save. Half spin. Luckily, we kept it out of the wall, but after getting that safety car to help bring us back into contention, now a little half spin off this, a little adventure off the circuit. And we have got a 4.2 second margin to the cars ahead. However, Since it is the first lap after the restart, this little section of track, turns 8, 9, and 10, definitely is much slower than when the field spreads out a little bit. So with the clean air in front, I'm able to make up a bit of time. So we are able to make up a good 1.5, almost a second or so of time on the cars ahead. So all told, we realistically lost about 4 seconds. But you know, nothing's gone right for me so far in this race. From qualifying, getting blocked, and then you know, getting tagged in the first one, and then a mistake of my own on this safety car restart. So got some work to do to catch up to Oba Mendez, who is in P15. He's carrying a 3-second track limits time penalty, and so far I have not even picked up so much as a warning. So the hustle is on, and just like the start of the race, just going to try and close my way back up to the field. The job is considerably less this time around, as there's quite a bit of smoke from people locking up into turn 1. But now you can see a little bit of action up ahead of us. The leaders are kind of streaking away. Chronicle has dropped down to 13th. We're now just inside the 3-second margin to Oba Mendez. Yellow flags up ahead, and that is a Williams facing the wrong way. Chronicle with a spin in Sebastian Vettel style outside of turn 4. But jumping ahead now, lap 17 of 29 in this season opener, and we've got the DRS on Oba Mendez. Pull to the inside, ease right on past, brake nice and safely to make sure I can stay tight to the apex. Kind of delay getting on the throttle so he doesn't quite get a run out of turn 2 and 3. And then he's going to get the DRS back on me, but we're going to dump a good chunk of battery, and that should be plenty to hold him at bay. Now, one thing I did note after the fact, after this race, was asking around. I was running considerably higher wings than a lot of drivers, so I was making up a good chunk of time in the middle sector, and really it worked out best when I could get into a slipstream or DRS. Otherwise, down the straights, I was a couple of tenths of a lap slower than everybody else, but I made up the gap considerably. As it's getting very interesting amongst the cars ahead. A big pack, another local yellow flag, though, as somebody's going a little slowly. But it quickly cleared back to green flag racing. So nobody facing the wrong way this time. And now we've got a 2-second margin to Santa Bob Mittens for Kittens off the circuit, running wide. I believe the Ferrari, I don't know at which point he picked up wing damage. It might have been around this time, but he did finish the race with some wing damage. Found out afterwards that's why he was consistently so wide in the turn 11 left-hander. But not quite close enough to get to that 1-second margin. You can see it was just less than a tenth back of 1 second, but by the time we crossed the detection point, I was over at 1.1 tenths or 1.1 seconds back. So no DRS, and you can see just how much time they make up on the straight with DRS. I mean, I went from just about a second back of them to 1.7 by the time I put the brakes on into turn 1. So lots of time to be lost there. They lost a chunk of time battling into turn 1, but this time by 1.2 seconds back, should be able to use the downforce that I've got through this middle part of the lap and close up, especially since it looks like they're looking to go side by side for a second, the Red Bull and the Ferrari, so that has slowed them up just a little bit more. And now I'm very much inside the DRS window for them. We do need to keep our hustle on. We don't want to give Oba Mendez the opportunity to get back into the valley, even though he's carrying that time penalty. And wide off the track is Sienna Bob. So easy. You lock the fronts and the car just wants to go straight, and you kind of have to get off the brakes because you can't brake as well on the curb. You have to kind of just go long and then tighten it up. But he's able to actually rejoin ahead of the Ferrari, which was a bit of a surprise to me. But coming through turns 12 now, up the hill, a little bit of an aggressive turn in. I had a bit of oversteer, had to make a mental note on that right-hander. It's flat out, but if you pitch the car too hard, you can unstick the rear and have a big old spin, which I think might have happened to Ipswich. I don't recall exactly where he went off. But we are now very much inside the DRS for the Ferrari ahead of us. However, he does have DRS help from the Red Bull ahead of him. Just taking a quick look at tire temperatures to make sure they are all good. Tire temperature this season and next season, I guess season 9 as well, as long as we're in the F1 23 game, the current tire model gets a lot more of tire temperature via brake temperature soak rather than the actual hard turning or hard cornering and putting energy into the tires that way. So around goes Cruzo ahead of us, so that's another position. We've now got points paying positions in our line of sight, side by side of the Ferrari and the Red Bull, and I'm very much easing through here. They're just kind of, there's no real place for me to pick my way through in this part of the track, and it's not a good idea to make it, well, not even a great idea to make it too wide, but 3 wide is an even worse idea. But it looks like Mittens is going to get ahead. Sienna Bob on the medium tires is keeping them alive quite nicely. I believe he put them on at the safety car period, and they can reach. They will have a little bit less performance at the end of the race, but right now they are doing quite a good job. But you can see Ferrari's struggling very much in that left-hander of turn 11 there. And that is definitely costing him some lap time. Cruzo, 1.6 seconds behind me, has a 6-second time penalty. I'm a little concerned. Just kind of keeping an eye on him a little bit, because even though he has that 6 seconds of time penalties, he is a bit, I mean, he gets his elbows out. It's a big slide for Sienna Bob coming out of turn of 14 in turn 15, and he's given up the position, but he's gotten back on the power and has got a good run. He's got a lot better straight line speed than I do. But like I was saying with Cruzo, just still need to keep him in the back of your mind, because he can occasionally go for some moves that may be ill-advised, and it'll be better to just kind of let him through if that situation arises. But Sienna Bob having a little look to the inside in our mirror, not quite close enough to attack into turn 4. But we managed to hold on to P11. We've got Pathaman in P9, Mittens for Kittens up in P10. So we have gotten ourselves, with just about 8 laps left to go in this one, back close to points positions, a little deep in the hairpin. A big amount of wheel spin for Sienna Bob, but he makes a good save and really only loses about 0.2 with that big old slide. So congrats to him, and you know, a thumbs up to the new handling model, where it used to be, oh, the back end is unstuck, you are now facing the other direction instantaneously. You can save slides a little bit, quite a bit more successfully in this year's game, as you saw. You know, big old slide out of the hairpin, and he's still pretty much right on my gearbox. So just trying to set myself up for a good run at Mittens in front. And we will have the DRS, but we are going to have to be a little bit worried. He's going to have DRS help from Pathaman ahead, and Sienna Bob with only about a 3.5 tenths of a second gap behind us and better straight line speed is a car to be concerned about. You can see in the slipstream we're really not making any ground on Mittens, and we're just kind of waiting for a good overtaking opportunity. Hard tire versus medium tires, Mittens versus Pathaman ahead. Pathaman a little slower overall pace, I would say. Mittens, Sienna Bob, and myself, of course, all the incidents have gotten interesting, and you can see Mittens straight through that time, but up the inside, Pathaman is going to fight it back with that extra grip, so they are going to go side by side through these S's, and I'm going to keep an eye out, and a little bit of contact. Sideways goes the McLaren. We managed to sneak our way through, as just that tiny bit of side-by-side contact from Mittens and Pathaman results in that McLaren half spinning off the right side, and now we've got the Ferrari ahead and the Red Bull behind, and a big lock up there. A bit of a save needed in turn 9 and 10, as the tires are starting to feel a little bit uncomfortable at this stage of the race. But DRS open, and you can see just how much ground we make on the Ferrari, and actually kind of have to ease onto the throttle a little bit, otherwise we kind of run into the back of him. So trying to set up for a good run down the pit straight, but we've also got Sienna Bob, who is very much in the mix, and it's a little tough to get a good run in this final corner, where if you've got better front wing, you got to try and just brake a little earlier, maximize the exit. But you can see Mittens got a very good exit out of there, so did Sienna Bob. My DRS is open, I'm in the slipstream. I'm going to stay in the slipstream as long as possible. Move to the inside, and just like we did on the Alfa Romeo earlier, nice and early on the brakes. I was normally taking that corner in 3rd gear, but all the way down to 2nd to make sure we get the rotation by holding that tighter line. And once again, power on that ERS. We're running the battery quite low. Recharge was very tough around Bahrain. You would get very little back net lap on lap. So you got to be very particular when using
gap
it.
ahead is 6.3 seconds.
So I'm trying to hope now that Sienna Bob and Mittens maybe start fighting, give me a little bit of breathing space, but both drivers have been relatively wise with their maneuvers, and we didn't really get a great run through turn 9 and 10. And realistically, we needed to be about 0.8 on the exit, but now you can see that DRS helping out for Mittens. And this time we do make a little bit of time, but he has probably one of his best runs through turn 11 of the race with that damaged front wing. So we are going to be very much at risk in on the way into turn 1. Sienna Bob's made a little bit of a mistake, a little bobble coming out of turn 13. So we should, if we play it just right, we'll lose the position to Mittens, but we should have a nice clean bit of track to slot in between the two drivers. Catch a little slipstream to bring me up to speed, and there it is. Yeah, you can see Sienna Bob still about a second back, but he's going to be inside DRS. We're going to brake, get the car rotated as Mittens takes that position off of us, but it was not a surprising one. The car really dancing around on the throttle that time, having to make a couple stabs at the corner in order to get the car to rotate, not over-rotate, to get the car pointed and straightened so the rear tires could grip up. So hustling forward once again, we're getting towards the nitty-gritty, and this was a really great battle over the entire course. There's usually an opportunity in the last few laps to kind of cut and jump, but it was pretty much non-stop fighting with this group the whole time. A little bit of a mistake, it looks like, from the group ahead. So we are closing in on them pretty quickly, and you can see right on the gearbox of Mittens this time. The problem is this straight isn't really long enough to maximize the DRS usage. So we are going to be a bit too close to him, because you can see just how much I have to fully lift out of the throttle. A huge loss of momentum to avoid getting into the back of him, as he couldn't get on the throttle. And so we just have to manage, and that has allowed Sienna Bob to really get involved now. He is only now less than 0.2 back, and so I need to be careful with my braking to make sure that he doesn't get into the back of me, while I don't get into the back of the Ferrari, which is struggling. But he managed to get the power down, so his initial turn in, not as good as mine, but the secondary rotation, he really gets it working. So once again, DRS open, down the pit straight to the inside, slide that brake balance just a little bit forward to avoid the rear locking. He's going to go a little bit deep. We're going to leave the inside as he's there, and big slide from us, and he kind of chops the nose. It was very nip and tuck there. We managed to stay behind at detection, but with that loss of momentum, Sienna Bob has a decent run. We're late on the brakes, basically as late as we can go, but Sienna Bob is going to sneak his way through, as he had that better line. We were out on the marbles. The outside line of turn 4, not nearly as quick nor as smooth. The track very bumpy out there on the outside of turn 4, so much harder to get the car rotated and on throttle. But once again, we are now down into P11, so still have some work to do. 4 points before the end. Sienna Bob runs wide. He does still have DRS. I have a thought of going up the inside of him, but you can see I actually closed my DRS very early because I don't want to get such a run that I'm going to pull right into the back of him, or be in a situation where I have to force an overtake. So we are just kind of line astern, 1, 2, 3 of us on our way through the final sector. Sienna Bob gets a decent run on Mittens, but is going to back out a little bit, let Mittens hold the lead, so that Sienna Bob can have the DRS from behind. We run a little bit deep. You can see that pickup on the front left tire for a second, and that has cost us a bit of gap. So we may have been able to follow Sienna Bob through on Mittens if he had stayed closer, but little mistake there, and that has cost us a bit of time to the cars ahead. We will stay within the DRS of them, but that has also brought Cruzo a little bit more back into play, 1.6 seconds the margin. So trying to save whatever battery I can for a last laps kind of overtaking opportunity if it shows itself. But otherwise, just trying to find our way to the points paying positions. Any points would be a great result, and we are actually in spite of all this, reeling in this group ahead of us. They're much closer on track than they were before. So maybe a mistake from one of them could net us another points-paying position at the very end. But wide and off the track is Mittens. We managed to stay on the circuit, so that is position gotten for us. However, we have lost the DRS from Sienna Bob, but we're going to jump ahead to lap 28 now. We've caught another Ferrari, Mazda, and we are just almost on the back of Sienna Bob. And with Mazda fighting with Sienna Bob, that is going to allow us to get in DRS as they're very wide, barely staying on the circuit. So that'll get us nearly within DRS range. We were behind at the detection point. We're going to have a little look to the inside just because Sienna Bob had such a poor exit from being compromised. But that's put us right on the gearbox. Cruzo's still lurking right there in the shadows. But with Mittens kind of out of the picture, we are in P10 with 2 laps left to go, or a lap and a half really at this stage. And we're going to try and maximize our points in the smartest manner as possible. Take the opportunity if it presents itself, but realistically, after being 50 seconds from the field by lap 3, a point is a huge win in my book here. So I think we managed to keep Cruzo just outside the 1 second margin. It's 1.1 seconds, and he's not really making too much ground on the straight. This Ferrari, Mazda, also with some front wing damage. So both Ferraris had gotten into the wars a bit and not turning with their prime abilities, but we're managing to sneak up on the back on this point. Cruzo's a little too close. I thought about deploying some energy to try and get him to 1 second, but it's not the best situation. So down into the last 2 corners, we get a decent exit off the back. And now it is going to be kind of pick the lane. Mazda is got good straight line speed on the inside. Sienna Bob has burned pretty much all of his battery. That's what that flashing red light is. So Mazda goes very deep into the corner. Sienna Bob locks up. It's going to be side by side for them. We are going to sweep around the outside of Mazda. Sienna Bob high centers on the curb, so we are going to take advantage of that with our own DRS. Swing back to the racing line. Position gained, but we're deep on the apex. And that's opened the door for Sienna Bob, and he just kind of drives into the back of us. He is out of the race. As the track kind of bent to the right, he just kind of kept the steering wheel straight. We talked about it after the race, but last lap got run into after making a great double overtake on the way into turn 4. About the only thing I could have done to have prevented that is if I'd gotten to the apex of turn 4 better, I could have covered it off, compromised his ability to make a run at me. But still, it's not ideal. So in the end, on the last lap of the race, the bad luck struck again. After we fought so hard to get to where we were and, stayed in a race that could have been easy to just retire from, call it a day, move on, run into right to last place finisher. Both Red Bulls end up retiring. And we will come across the line in P15. With our broken wing, we are not really going to have a good opportunity at catching Onyx. You can see barely able to keep the car on the track there. So even though he had that 6 seconds worth of time penalties, it's not going to do us any good. It's not for a points-paying position anyway. So a frustrating day, but it was good to get back racing again. There was good battles. It was fun up until the bad luck striking. So, such it is. Spen takes the championship lead, joined on the podium by, I believe that is F50 and Gali. So, good results for the 3 of them, the defending champion on the podium today. But Spen, one of the championship challengers last season, right up there and off to a good point start, and that is not an ideal start for us, as we're racing largely the same group of people for the championship this season. A lot of the same lads, but unfortunately, just not quite lucky. We'll take a look. Spen leads. Oh, Fran Stuff was on the podium there. Oh, F50 was podium in Div 1. I don't know why I'm talking about F50. Agali P3, Dog in 4th, Zhao in 5th, Robin in 6th, Bonhomie 7th, Pathaman, Mazda, Mittens, Cruzo Chronicle, Owen Mendez, Onyx, and myself. So we were on for a potentially good, P8 kind of points, but a last lap kind of incident. Unfortunately, that is it. But thank you all for joining me. Season is well underway. I'll catch you guys next time. Peace out.